We got the biggest fighter of the year, the return of Jake Paul.
For Jake Paul, this is a very tough challenge because Mike Perry, he fights bare knuckle professionally and he excels.
Mike Perry does not give two shits about you. Like, he's gonna go in there just to kill you. He has that killer instinct, and Jake Paul, is he gonna be able to handle that killer instinct?
Styles make fights at the end of the day. Mike Perry is a very difficult type of style for Jake Paul to handle.
And I'm gonna give my official prediction.
Let's hear it.
When I see Boots, I see a lot of potential. This guy can definitely be a pay-per-view star and fill up arenas.
He's the next generation. He could fight orthodox, he could fight southpaw, he can fight boxing you, but he can also steamroll you.
Boots Ennis has been hyped as the potential challenger to dethrone Bud Crawford.
I think any version of Boots right now would get manhandled by Terence Crawford.
Welcome back to another episode of the Last Round Podcast, where we cover everything from traditional boxing to influencer boxing and everything in between. In today's episode, we'll be going over Boots Ennis' TKO victory over David Avanesyan, as well as giving our official prediction for Jake Paul as he takes on Mike Platinum Perry. But before we dive into the episode, make sure to like and subscribe, as well as follow us on all forms of social media. We are on X, TikTok, and Instagram. But now diving into the episode. This past weekend, we had the return of the 147 champ and the 147 top dog in Boots Ennis. You know, Boots Ennis has been hyped for many years now as the potential challenger to dethrone Bud Crawford back when Bud Crawford was still fighting at 147. But now Boots Ennis had his homecoming, as well as his first title defense for his belt at 147. And in my opinion, he performed very well. Nearly sold out crowd, a record-breaking crowd over in his hometown. And he performed to a level that, you know, a lot of people are accustomed to seeing him. And he took on David Avanesyan, who was coming off a 1 month notice, which, you know, you got to give props to him for doing that, you know. But, yeah, I mean, it was what we all expected. Boots Ennis to show the world why he is an elite fighter and why he deserves to have some of the big names now in his resume. And I'm sure that he's looking at unification and potentially going up to 154 later on sometime next year to, you know, fight some of the top dogs in that division. But Boots Ennis, what are you guys' thoughts about him right now?
Yeah, he has a lot of pressure on him. You know, he is being built up as the next generation, as the top guy at 147. And he keeps on calling out Terence Crawford as well. So it seems every fight that he keeps on performing, there's more and more pressure, more and more fans expect more of him. And he still performs really well. It seems he's a fighter that performs well under pressure. He gets better as the lights get brighter, and that's what you want to see. This past weekend against Avanesyan, who's a tough and durable fighter, he got him out of there. He controlled the fight. He was landing some hellacious shots on him. I mean, he looked in control in there. It looked like it was his ring. So he is looking like an elite level fighter. I can't wait to see how he, you know, continues his career.
Yeah, same. And I think this is also a very good opponent for his resume. You know, he fought Crawford, and Crawford got him out in the 7th round, I believe. And now Boots did it earlier. So that's really good. With the Crawford comment, I think it's a little... I don't want to rush it because I feel like there's no need to rush it. But I feel like Boots is a good fighter. I think he's either the top dog at the welterweight division or he's second behind Stanleonis.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But, yeah, I mean, if I were him, I would maybe try to look for a unification or two, maybe even try to unify the division and then move up to 154 because I feel like he is a big guy at 147. But I think right now he's still a little too early. I think he's pretty young. I think he's about to enter his prime years. So I feel like there's no need to, like, rush it.
I think that's a great point. Like a lot of these fighters, they want to like fight the top guys. You know, he's been calling for Crawford for a while now, and of course he did it last night when he got the mic. But I don't think there's any need. Like you said, I mean, he's still developing as a fighter. He's the next generation. Like, there's really no need to rush it and go into the top elite level against Terence Crawford, who is pound for pound number one, when there's no need to. So I think he should still stay at 147, maybe fight Mario Barrios, who I believe has another belt in the division. You know, fight Stanleonis, fight those type of fighters, and stay away from Crawford at the moment because I don't think there's just really no need.
Yeah. So the thing is, you guys saying like, you know, take your time with with Boots Ennis, which, you know, there is some truth in that. But we got to remember, Crawford is 36 years old. I mean, there's going to be a time where, let's say they wait another year or two. Maybe in that year or two that they wait for a fight against Crawford, Crawford declines, you know, he's not the same fighter anymore. There's going to be a lot of excuses at that point. If Boots Ennis does fight him and does beat him, they'll be like, oh, he didn't beat the very best Crawford. You know, the Crawford who destroyed Earl Spence Jr., the Crawford who ruled the 147 and took over the 140. You know, there's going to be a lot of criticism towards Boots Ennis if he waits too long, which is why I can understand why him and his team want to rush, or not really rush, but they want the fight now, you know, because not only is it a big money fight, but it's a big legacy fight. And if he beats Crawford, they'll give him a lot more credit for beating him now than beating him in 2 years.
I think that's very true. The only thing is because sometimes fighters don't fight each other. You know, they're completely different generations. Crawford, yeah, he's pushing 36.
He's already 36.
He's already 36, so he's pushing 37. Boots Ennis is still early. He's still young. I mean, he's in his 20s, mid-20s.
27.
They're 10-year difference, yeah. Like, they're completely different generational fighters. So if that fight doesn't happen, honestly, I would not really be mad. I want to see Boots Ennis develop as a fighter, and I don't think it's really necessary for him to go fight Terence Crawford, because right now I don't think it's the right time. And in 2 years, I don't think it's going to be Crawford's time anymore to deserve all the respect for defeating someone like Crawford.
Yeah, and if we're just looking at it just on paper, solely based on paper, like Crawford has a lot more, he has a lot better resume than Boots. I mean, Boots doesn't really bring much to the table. I mean, Crawford became a world champion at 135, 140, and then 147, and he unified 140 and at 147. So, I mean, Boots has only had one belt in his whole career. So I feel like when you look at it from that perspective, just on paper, I feel like he doesn't have the merit. He doesn't deserve it.
Yeah, and another thing with Crawford, I mean, he's made it abundantly clear that he's doing what he wants to do, because he's been asked before, why don't you, fight Boots? He's been calling you out. He's the top guy, 147, and he says it's a lose-lose for me. I beat him. They're gonna say he was young. I lose. I just lose. So I mean,
that's even worse.
Yeah, that's even worse. Like, I don't think Crawford is really interested in the fight. He's moved up to 154. I'm not sure if he's gonna go back to 147. But, I mean, he's doing what he wants, man. He's doing what he wants. I don't think, even for Crawford, it's necessary for him to fight Boots. He doesn't need that in his resume to go down as a great fighter. I'm really hesitant to... I don't think this fight we will ever see this fight, Crawford versus Boots.
Same. I'm of the same thinking, because, like, it's just like what you said. They're two different generational fighters, 10 years apart. They never fought in the amateurs. They were nowhere near the same age group to even be able to fight against one another. So that's completely different. When I see Boots, I see a lot of potential. This guy can definitely be a pay-per-view star and definitely fill up arenas there in his hometown in Philly, for sure.
Personally, for me, yeah, even though I'd like to see a Crawford and Boots showdown sometime, if it's not possible, then I'm willing to settle for a Boots Ennis taking on Virgil Ortiz, man, at 154. Imagine that. I mean, Virgil Ortiz, and at one point, when he was still at 147, Virgil Ortiz and Boots Ennis were considered the two top prospects at the 147, at the welterweight division, until, Ortiz couldn't make the weight anymore, and he had a lot of complications making that weight. But now 154, he seems to be making, or he's going to debut at 154 against Sergey Borachuk next month. So hopefully we see the very best Virgil Ortiz, who's not as weight drained. And in turn, Boots Ennis, he mentioned that he's willing to go up to 154 after unifying at welterweight. So, I mean, they're both fighters, Virgil Ortiz and Boots Ennis, are in their respective primes, or they're entering their prime. They're both power punchers. They both bring pressure. I mean, this is a great recipe for an absolute war if they were to match them up at 154.
Yeah, they're two colliding forces, and they were at the same division. Now they're one division apart, which I don't think is that big of a deal, because Boots has said before, he's going to mop up the 147, and I do believe him. I do believe he is the best guy there. I do believe if he wants to, he go unified, undisputed, and then just go up to 154, fight Virgil Ortiz, and that's a fight that I definitely would like to see, and I think it definitely is possible. Both of these guys are around the same age. I don't think there's really anything stopping them from colliding ways in, I don't know, 3 years.
Exactly. So hopefully that gets made. But regardless, yes, Boots Ennis at the moment got the TKO win over. Oh my God, I keep forgetting. Avanesyan. I keep forgetting how to mispronounce it or pronounce his name. But Avanesyan. The thing is, a lot of people were criticizing Boots, regardless of the performance he put out. They were saying that he got hit a little too much. If this Boots Ennis presented himself against Terence Crawford would have whooped him. What are you guys' thoughts on that? What if the performance that Boots Ennis gave us this past weekend was in the ring with Terence Crawford? Do you think Terence Crawford would have absolutely manhandled him?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think any version of Boots right now would get manhandled by Terence Crawford. Even the absolute best version of Boots. Yeah. That's how highly I think of Terence Crawford. But I think there is some truth into that statement. A lot of people are saying that, Boots didn't look... He didn't look invincible. He looked, he showed some weakness. He got hit a couple of times, very flush, very clean. He was never hurt or anything, but he did receive some very clean punches. I don't know, and I understand that, but the thing I would say is that I think Boots was just trying to get Avanesyan out of there. I think he was like, you know what, fuck all the skills. I'm just going to go straight at him. I'm going to throw my punches, and I'm going to try to get him out as fast as I can. I think that's what it was. He was being a little too cocky. He just started walking through any of Avanesyan's punches. He didn't really feel any danger. I think that's mainly what it was, not necessarily that Boots can't, fight more slick or can't fight more smart. So, yeah, that's basically what I think it was.
Yeah, for me, I think it does make sense because I feel like he was trying to make a statement. I think he was trying to get that dude out of there before Crawford did, and he got it. But in exchange, that means he's gonna get touched a little bit more. He's gonna be maybe not more flat-footed, but he's just gonna be standing right there, kind of in the middle, right in front of Avanesyan. And it is what it is. But he got the job done. Not only that, I feel like the mistakes or the errors that he committed are overshadowed by the TKO and most importantly the jaw breakage as well.
Yeah, that was crazy. That's crazy. It was a single punch that broke that jaw. A perfectly timed shot because Avanesyan's game plan basically was just don't get hit clean, I guess. He was super high guard, super closed. And I think Boots kind of baited him to start opening up a little bit. And once he opened up, Boots countered him with a perfect right hand or left hand and broke his jaw.
Yeah. Dropped him as well during that case. But yeah, going back to people criticizing Boots about his performance and getting hit a little too much. That's true. He did get hit a little too much, but I completely agree that he did it as a way to just try to try to get Avanesyan out of there. If you look at his last fight last year against Villa, look at the way he was fighting. Completely different, man. If he wanted to, he could have fought him that exact type of way. You know, absolutely finessing, absolutely perfect timing, picking out his shots and not getting hit, man. And he put up one of the best performances of the year against Villa last year. So if he wanted to, he could have put up that same performance. This one, you can tell he was coming in with a different type of mentality. His hometown, record-breaking numbers in that venue. So he had to show out, man. So one way to show out is just to steamroll that guy, bulldoze him out of there, and if it means you getting hit a little bit, so be it. As long as I get the knockout, I'm fine with that.
It's true. It's very true. And honestly, I think it even gives a little bit more credibility to Boots because it shows he's a very versatile fighter. He could fight. So he's a switch fighter. He could fight orthodox. He could fight southpaw. He can fight boxing you, where he looks real pretty, fighting on the outside with his jab, make you miss and all that stuff. But he can also steamroll you. He has the power to do both. I think it gives him even more credibility to show he is a more rounded out fighter. He is the complete package. He is the future.
So yes, Boots Ennis coming out with a TKO victory over David Avanesyan. Respect to him though. Like I said, 1 month. He late minute replacement, 1 month away. So he did what he had to do or what he could do with the time that he had. But respect to him for taking it. But it was at the end of the day the Boots Ennis show, and he was able to get that TKO victory over him. But switching gears now, I think it's time to talk a little bit about the big fight next week, guys. We got the biggest fight of the year. Highlight of the year so far is gonna be the return of Jake Paul. against Mike Tyson, right, guys?
No, not anymore.
Not anymore. No. It should have been, right? It should have been on Netflix and everything, yada yada. But Mike Tyson, have we even found out about how he's doing? By the way,
Mike Tyson.
Yeah, his injury.
No
I
word,
haven't
I
heard-
don't think.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything of him.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Regardless,
Because we all know what that means.
he's gone.
Yeah.
Anyways, Jake Paul now taking on Mike Platinum Perry as the replacement for Mike. And I mean, we got the big fight, I guess, for the not really influencer, because I guess Jake Paul doesn't really consider himself that much to be an influencer anymore at this
He's
point.
a real boxer now.
That's right, a real pro.
He's a real pro, I guess. So, now we have the return of Jake Paul that takes on Mike Perry. Thoughts about that? You guys have any predictions? Anything you want to talk about? Go deeper into that?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a great fight. First of all, I think a lot of people are talking about it as well. How much respect they are giving Jake Paul for taking on Mike Perry, because Mike Perry, first of all, he is a tough guy. I mean, he fights bare knuckle professionally, and he excels. This is this is a guy that in the UFC. He was a decent fighter. He wasn't the best. He wasn't the worst. Kind of in the middle of the pack. But he goes to the UFC. They take off the gloves, and out of nowhere, he becomes the GOAT.
Bare knuckle.
Bare knuckle, yeah.
Bare knuckle. Out of nowhere, he becomes the GOAT. Like, it's kind of crazy. So he's a guy that loves to fight. He's a guy that hits hard, doesn't give his opponents any respect. So honestly, hats off to Jake Paul. I think this fight is definitely better than the Mike Tyson fight. Ooh. And a lot of people are more happy that he's fighting Mike Perry than Mike Tyson.
Yeah, I'm happy too, because he's fighting a guy who he is closer in age with than a Mike Tyson, who is considered a grandpa or close to a senior citizen.
Nah, he is definitely a grandpa.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like this is a good fight. This is a good test for Jake Paul, I guess, against a guy who is rigid, rugged, and ready to come forward and bring the action. He has decent amount of power as well. Like, he just breaks people's noses and stuff like that. But if I'm going to have to choose who I'm going to ride with, I'm going to have to go with JP. And I think I'm going to go for a KO victory for Jake Paul. Yes. Yeah. I'm going to... here's the thing. I think it's because it's... I want to say, it's the exact same sport, right? Boxing, one... And then bare knuckle boxing. One has bigger gloves and the other one has no gloves. Just hand wraps or whatever. But I feel like... I don't know if Mike Perry is going to feel comfortable with bigger gloves. I feel like that's going to maybe inhibit something. Maybe he's going to have to make an adjustment into how he punches and stuff like that. I think it's going to feel different. I think it's going to feel out of water, almost like a fish out of water.
Oh, definitely. There's a lot of they've interviewed Mike Perry before, and he's talked about the differences between like bare knuckle and like having gloves and having no gloves. Basically, yeah, with bare knuckle, you how in boxing you're not supposed to be tense when you're just like in your guard, only tense up when you punch. In bare knuckle, you're supposed to be tense up all the time and still be able to move, because if you like try to do that, like have your fist loose and then punch, it's like more likely you're gonna break your hand.
Damn. Yeah,
so like you always have to be really, really rugged. That's why I think he excels like that, because he's one of those rugged type of fighters. But I don't know. I think this is a really close fight, actually. The more I think about it, the more I'm actually like, it could really go either way, because for Jake Paul's level, he's been boxing, I think, now for 6 years. He's had a good amount of fights now, but he's still relatively new to the game. I mean, he didn't have a long amateur career or anything like that. For his level, the main like asset that fighters should have is like wanting to fight, is like not being scared to get in the ring, not showing any respect to his opponent, going in there and like trying to do your best. And that's basically what Mike Perry is all about. He's going to go in there. He might not have the best skills. He might not be the most technical boxer, but he's a guy that has a ton of heart. He's a guy that's rugged, that can take a punch. And he's a guy that isn't going to show Jake Paul any respect. So for Jake Paul, this is a very tough challenge. I mean, and he's only 32 years old. So Mike Perry is still basically in his prime. This is a very close fight.
Yeah, a lot of people, like you said, are giving him respect for taking the fight. But I don't know, man. It's because a lot of people still tend to criticize Jake Paul just because he's Jake Paul, the things he says, the people he fights. And that's why the hate boils with him, when it comes to people just absolutely bashing Jake Paul. So they always like it's not even like Mike Perry's way better than him, therefore Mike Perry's gonna beat him. It's more of a I hate Jake Paul, so I want whoever he's fighting to beat him.
Exactly.
And that's the story I'm still getting from this fight. I mean, it's always probably gonna be like that for Jake Paul, honestly. So
I would say it's like the same thing with Mayweather, the Mayweather effect. Like people just want to tune in to see him get knocked out.
yeah, they just want to see him lose at that point. So I still see that same effect here, even though more people are like, okay, like at least if you do lose, you're gonna lose against an actual, fighter in that essence, but a fighter who's more your age. Yeah. But my issue is right now is that Jake Paul, he tends to struggle a lot when it comes to fighters who pressure him. And especially if it's a fighter like Mike Perry who's not going to give him any respect whatsoever. Like, I'm sure Jake Paul's going to land clean flush shots on him, and I'm sure Mike Perry's going to be like, okay, I'm just going to keep going forward, And, I mean, Jake Paul relies heavily on that power that, he has. But the power that he has it's shown up against every single opponent except one, and that was Tommy Fury. And what was the thing that Tommy Fury and Jake Paul had in common? They were both relatively around the same age. I mean, we're talking about a fighter who was in his prime, who was in his youth, who was still strong, who didn't already have CTE like all these other fighters he was fighting, or older, retired, coming back from retirement. He was fighting a fresh fighter. And I mean, Mike Perry, I mean, he has wear and tear in his guard and everything because of all the fights he had in the UFC, and also bare knuckle. That's a huge toll on your body. But the difference between Tommy Fury and Mike Perry is that Mike Perry does not give two shits about you. Like, he's gonna go in there just to kill you. He has that killer instinct. And Jake Paul, my question is he gonna be able to handle that killer instinct?
Exactly, because I mean, Jake Paul, he has struggled with that. A lot of fighters, and that's basically what Mike Perry is. He's just like a little wrecking ball. He's definitely a smaller fighter than Jake Paul. He's shorter and he weighs less. And Jake Paul also is coming off of a bulk because he was supposed to fight Mike Tyson. Yep. Supposedly, rumor has it that he was weighing around 240. For the Mike Tyson fight, and then he was gonna cut down to like 220 to fight Mike Tyson. So he's coming off real heavy. I think the weight's gonna be around less than 200 pounds. But Mike Perry, he's just gonna go in there and like just try to steamroll you. And Jake Paul does struggle with that. That's the thing. So styles make fights at the end of the day, and I think Mike Perry is a very difficult type of style for Jake Paul to handle.
You got anything to say about that, Udo?
I mean, yes, he's definitely a come forward type of guy. It looks like he does have a chin. I don't think he's ever really been dropped.
In the bare knuckle, I'm not sure, but he definitely does have a chin because, I mean, he's fought, I don't know if you guys know him, Luke Rockhold. He's a former UFC fighter as well. These UFC fighters love going to bare knuckle. I'm not sure why. But he fought Luke Rockhold, and Luke Rockhold is much bigger than him. Luke Rockhold is like, I'm not exactly sure how much he weighed, but he's a big guy. Yeah, Luke Rockhold. But when he fought Mike Perry knocked his teeth out. Whoa. Yeah, Mike Perry knocked his teeth out, and Mike Perry was fine. He was after the fight. Mike Perry's one of those type of fighters. Like, his chin has shown to be very, very good. Yeah. But I mean, sometimes when you take a lot of punches, your chin does deteriorate. So I don't know. That could play a factor as well, because maybe his chin has shown really well in the past couple of fights. But I mean, each time you step in the ring bare knuckle, I mean, you're risking something,
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, he has shown to have a granite chin, but I mean, he's never tasted the power of Jake Paul. That right hand of Jake Paul, it's something different. You said that his power didn't show up in the Tommy Fury fight. Wrong. What about that jab?
Yeah, he dropped.
What about that jab? He dropped him with the jab.
Dropped him with the jab.
Imagine
crazy.
if it was a right hand. Damn. Like, he could have ended it right then and there. But yeah, I mean, I feel like since we first seen Jake Paul, he's definitely improved quite a bit. Even when he lost against Tommy Fury, and then he fought Nate Diaz, I did see some type of improvement. I felt like he was a bit more comfortable. I think that fight was 8 rounds as well. 10 rounds. Mm-hmm. So I mean, he's got that. So I feel like now just time for him to settle in, get that confidence, just for him to believe in himself. So yeah, I think he has what it takes to get him out, if I'm going to be honest.
Well, the thing also with Jake Paul is I think a main key for the fight is going to be the cardio for both fighters because, I mean, Mike Perry, I mean, he's not used to fighting. This is a 8-round fight. I don't know how often he's ever fought that much, or I think this might be his first ever 8-rounder in his entire career. So I want to see how he does in an 8-rounder. But I mean, Jake Paul has fought 8-rounders, 10-rounders even, and he's shown that late in the rounds or late in the fight, he tends to gas out a bit. I mean, Nate Diaz, of course, he's an anomaly when it comes to the cardio. So, of course, he's going to get the better of Jake Paul in the second half of the fight. But Jake Paul was, I saw him gassed late in the fight. And I'm wondering, Jake Paul, I've seen him also be nervous. I mean, you can tell he does have nerves. The most apparent one was against Tommy Fury when he was doing his walkout. You clearly tell that man was shaking in his boots before entering the ring. But I mean, nerves play a big factor in your cardio, you know, and in the way you perform. And I mean, he should be well aware that Mike Perry's not going to give him any respect. So I want to see how he's able to calm himself down, or how he's able to battle his own nerves. And I mean, because if he's not able to, he's gonna gas out. And I mean, second half of the fight might be a bit tough for him.
Yeah, because if this turns into like a skill versus skill fight, Jake Paul wins. I think Jake Paul definitely has the better skills. He's been fighting, you know, he's been training boxing for the past 6 years, whereas Mike Perry has been training bare knuckle. Very different sports. So I think Mike Perry definitely has to, you know, or Jake Paul, he definitely has to like be confident in himself, because if he's like nervous, or if he still crumbles to like an opponent that just comes at him, then he's gonna perform really bad. But skill wise, he is definitely better. So he has to show the fans that he is improving. He has to show the fans that he is no longer like an amateur type of fighter, where like he's actually a professional, where he understands, okay, this guy's just gonna come straight at me. But it's not that much. It's not that skillful. Yeah. I can move around him. I can use my feet, use my footwork, and make him miss, and then make him pay.
Yeah, and I feel like this is such a good test for Jake Paul, because I'm almost certain that he does have that power. He does have that one punch KO power. All he needs to do is focus a little bit more on his boxing technique, on his boxing style, figure out a style which he likes. I feel like if he implements some type of jab, you know, jabbing top, bottom, or just using the jab a little bit more effectively to just land the right hand, that's going to be such a good style for him, because he's such a novice. You know, he's still considered a novice.
Well, this is one thing. I think Jake Paul's power is really only shown because he fights smaller fighters. I mean, this is one thing. He fights like real small 5'9", 170-pound fighters. He's 6 feet tall, 200 pounds.
I think he's like 5'11".
Still taller than him.
5'11" and a half, you know. 6 feet with shoes. But he's a big guy. Like, he's a big guy, and he fights, you know, there's a reason why he chose Mike Perry. Because it is, first of all, it's a dangerous guy, obviously. But he also has a lot of advantages over Mike Perry. You know, he's taller, he's longer, he's heavier, he's been training boxing longer. He has a good amount of advantages over Mike Perry, so it's a calculated risk. So, Jake Paul, you know, a lot of people, you know, hype up his power, and I think he definitely does have some sort of power, but I don't know how much that's going to show up in this fight, because Mike Perry's chin is so good. He has a granite chin, you know. He's been shown time and time again that he can take a punch. He's not scared to take a punch. So I don't know. Yeah, Jake Paul is going to have to do a really good job to set up the punch really well to where Mike Perry doesn't see it coming, and then he knocks him out.
Yeah, it's all going to be just a battle of how Jake Paul is able to deal with Mike Perry, and how he's able to deal with the pressure that he brings, and I guess the pressure outside as well from the ring. You know, the media, the critics, everyone wants to see Mike Tyson. Yes, they do too. But everyone wants to see Jake Paul lose. He knows it. He plays the part as well. I mean, he plays the part of the heel. You know, the fans hate him. You know, everyone hates him, but he keeps on winning, quote unquote. So, I mean, if he's able to beat Mike Perry, I don't even know how the internet is going to react, first of all. And I don't know how the UFC community is going to react, because I remember when he beat Tyron Woodley, they were pissed. And then when they knocked him out the second time, they were absolutely pissed. They were just crying. And also when he beat Anderson Silva,
Nate Diaz.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the MMA community absolutely hates Jake Paul.
The other guy, Ben.
Ben, no one. I mean, no one.
The UFC fighters hate him.
I mean, but regardless, like he's beating all these MMA, UFC fighters. I know the community for the UFC community despise the man, and I mean, if he beats Mike Perry, I wonder how they're gonna react. I know that it's not gonna be a good reception. They're probably gonna absolutely hate him even more. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Jake Paul for him to perform, and a lot of pressure on himself. I mean, I said it in our past episodes how Jake Paul's his only hope is boxing. You know, outside of he's not even he doesn't consider himself to be a YouTuber. He rarely posts on YouTube, and if he does post, it's just boxing stuff. And I mean, if he loses, I mean, he does still have a career in boxing because he's that big of a name still, but his hype definitely dies down, and it's and then he takes on Mike Tyson afterwards, and then people are going to be criticizing them even more and doubting them even more. May play a psychological factor to his performance in that fight in the fall.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Jake Paul, I mean, he put all his eggs on boxing now. He is officially a boxer because he is living the life. He's training every day. He doesn't post YouTube videos. He does everything he posts on his social media is basically just boxing. Like he's just training camp after training camp after training camp. That's a boxer right there. So I mean, if he loses this fight, I don't think it's the end of his career. Because I mean, we saw this with Tommy Fury. He lost, and it wasn't the end of his career. I think he still has a lot more money fights in his horizon, even if he ends up losing. But I think just basically the respect would go away because Jake Paul, he is steadily, I believe, he has steadily been gaining a little bit of respect from the boxing community, and I think this fight, this is one of the biggest if he wins this, yeah, he gets a lot of respect. If he loses this, they're going to be like, oh, every time he steps up against an actual fighter who's in his prime, who's not that old, who's active, he loses, and then they're going to discredit all his other wins because they were just a bunch of nobodies, a bunch of old heads, all this type of stuff. So, basically, I believe Jake Paul's fighting for his respect.
Yeah, same. What's funny is that throughout the years, when Jake Paul first got into the boxing scene, influencer boxing scene, I didn't really like him. But throughout the years, I've definitely gained to give him a lot more respect and stuff like that. Definitely, every time he steps in, it's always a different opposition, and it's a better opposition, on paper. So, yeah, I'm giving him a lot of respect for stepping up to a guy, a fighter like Mike Perry. But my respect for him is going to go a lot more once he knocks him out.
Here's the thing with Jake Paul, I do give him respect as a fighter, but I give him more respect as a promoter because I mean his company, Most Valuable, MVP. I mean they help Amanda Serrano. I mean they literally helped collaborate with Eddie Hearn to make Serrano and Taylor. It was it 2022? I believe it was, or 2023, or whatever. When they fought, it was regarded as, quote, first the greatest women's fight of all time, and second, one of the best fights of the year for both men and women. So it was a great show. Also, Jake Paul does a really good job with his promotional company when it comes to the prospects. They have those prospect shows that they pin up prospects against each other, and we get good fights in those. Good prospect fights. And I mean, I respect Jake Paul a lot more as a promoter or as a person trying to help the overall boxing rather than himself as a fighter.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he has become, he's more and more integrated into the boxing community. I think he's done a lot of great work in boxing, even as just a promoter. Yeah, fuck all the fighter shit. Even if you don't like him fighting, his antics, because a lot of people hate his antics, of course. But you can't deny, I mean, the things he's done for Amanda Serrano, the things he's done for women boxing. I mean, he is damn near a pioneer. Yeah. So he's done a lot of stuff for them. I think Jake Paul, even if this boxing stuff doesn't work out as a fighter, I mean, I think he still has a future, even as a promoter or sticking around the boxing scene, doing something,
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess time will tell when it comes to his promoter career. But as of right now, since he's still a fighter, there's Mike Perry fight coming up this weekend. And I'm going to give my official prediction.
Official prediction. Let's hear it.
Official prediction based on the data, the analytics, the research.
You crunch the numbers.
The deep insight with my journalists, my networks, my connections. Yep. I am predicting a Jake Paul victory. I think the little hype train that he still has, I think, is going to keep on rolling. It's going to be, he has big plans. I know he has the Mike Tyson, and I think that's the fight he's mostly looking forward to. So, I mean, he has to take care of Mike Perry, and I think he will take care of him. No knockout. I think it's going to be a decision. It's going to be a bit close. I do think it's going to be a bit close, but I think Jake Paul takes it.
Okay. So I might be the lone wolf here. I think Mike Perry is going to win by decision as well. I think Jake Paul is going to crumble from the pressure that Mike Perry puts. I think he's still too novice to really show his skill against someone who, just tries to steamroll over you. So I think Mike Perry is going to go in there, show no respect, like a little wrecking ball, go against Jake Paul, put him on the ropes, and unleash some hard combinations. But I think Jake Paul will catch him a couple of times. We will see maybe even a knockdown or something, because Jake Paul sometimes, out of nowhere, he gets a little knockdown, even with the Tommy Fury fight. But I think it's going to be a close fight, but a clear victory for Mike Perry.
UD or majority?
Split maybe. Okay. They want Jake Paul to win. I mean,
he is the favorite.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So we have 2 Jake Paul victories, and you have the Mike Perry.
You guys are just Jake Paul stands, bro.
I've been called that.
Do you guys know he rigs all his fights?
Oh, really?
They're all fake. All of them.
All of them?
He paid Nate Diaz off, Tyron Woodley, all of them. He paid them off.
He paid off Nate Robinson.
Nate Robinson, Ben Askren.
Nissan Gibb.
Yup.
He paid every single one of them. Yeah, that's the biggest conspiracy when it comes to Jake Paul's career. He rigs his fights.
Like how much money do you guys think this guy has, bro? He's just offering like $5 million to take a dive for every fighter.
No, that's crazy. I imagine. No, but that was our official predictions for Jake Paul and Mike Perry. Big fight coming this next week, and it should be a good one, I guess. I think it should be a very entertaining fight overall. But you guys have anything else you guys wanna discuss, want to talk about in the episode? No. All right, let us know down below about your thoughts and your official prediction for Jake Paul as he takes on Mike Platinum.
What the hell just happened?
Apologies. Give us your official predictions about Jake Paul and Mike Perry. Who do you guys have winning? Do you guys think that Jake Paul is going to keep on winning, get the KO over Mike Perry, or is Mike Perry going to be too much for JP to handle? Also, let us know about Boots Ennis. Would you rather see him fight against Crawford or against Virgil Ortiz, man? 2 good fights, 2 possible fights sometime in the future at 154 perhaps. So let us know down below. Is Boots Ennis the future of boxing, the kingpin at welterweight? Is Crawford ducking him, as many people have said? Let us know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as follow us on all forms of social media. We are on X, TikTok, and Instagram. Lastly, support the channel by joining our Discord. Link is down in the description below. But this was Pablo, and I am with Rudo and Asa, and this was the Last Round Podcast. Thank you for watching.